What you're about to hear is so old, it is futuristic, and without intense study, it may be outrageously unbelievable. All right, so this is our title, Soulcraft. The mental and spiritual origin of disease. God is light, from Ra and Kepra to the Bible, and light is information. All right, God is light. So by the end of today's lecture, what I want you to leave here with is the understanding that our ancestors were not slow, they were not stupid, they were not superstitious, they were not pseudo, none of the above. Your Quran is good science. Your Bible is good science. You're coming forth by day, Pert M. Heru, all of those things are scientific texts. God is not a figment of people's imagination. He's not a myth, right? You have to understand there are two things that separate us from having an understanding with our ancestors. One thing is language, we know that. But the other thing that's more difficult when compounded with language is time. I'm 40. We know we have difficulty communicating with the last generation. So how is it that we pick up books that are 1,000 years old, 2,000 years old, and think that we should be able to read them literally and just understand it like that overnight? How does that happen? And these are books that were written 1,000 years, 2,000 years ago, based on transmission of word, mouth to ear transmission for years before that. But by the end of this lecture, you will be reinvigorated with your spiritual system. And the reason why I had to go through this study is because none of the other information makes sense until you get this part. So you can't get the diet. You can't understand the herbs. You can't understand how and why those things work without this part, the beginning, right? So let's go. All right, electricity, magnetism, and light. I got a built-in fan base, okay? So every so often I might have a daddy moment, right? So this is the easiest way for me to communicate how you guys should understand electricity, light, and magnetism going forward, right? Vibration, friction, right? That is not only the creation of electricity, but the creation of information. That information or electricity, when it is radiating out of the medium it is created in, now you have light. When that light is stored, that is magnetism. If you just know those three things right there, you could create $1 billion industry. Look up Frank Vogel, he already did it. They didn't know how to store information. Frank Vogel pioneered all of our hard drives and computers with nothing more than a magnet and a crystal. Period. So that's why sometimes, you know, I be getting on our folks because we putting crystals on. I'm like, hey, you know what that can do? You might want to pick up a book, buddy. Right? So, why do I have the gold teeth there? Grinding. I grind my teeth at night. So I'm creating information while I sleep. But when I looked at this part of the world where like 90% of our written history comes from, it just reminded me of those teeth. So that might have been a me thing, right? But I want y'all to focus in on this part of the world as we move through the next few, as we move through the lecture. right? Colonized minds, right? We know we have to deal with this because most of us are walking around listening to doodle heads. Yeah, colonized, right? Colonized, right? And so what happened as a result of colonization? Because I think we spend too much time on the wrong things, right? We talk about slavery. Slavery, oh my God, they enslaved us. We was on boats. That is not the biggest deal. If you ask me, it's a distraction. What we need to focus on is what happened to our mind, right? What happened to our mind? We were pyramid builders. When you hear people talk now like pop culture, I'm doing it for the culture. Yo, I just dropped a new album for the culture. I'm about to advance the culture. And then you press play on the album. He like, yeah, I F this B. I just copped these bricks. Yeah, I kept it real. I had to do 3 years, but I'm back. Like, wait a minute, you advancing? What culture is that you're advancing? What culture is that you're advancing? That didn't come from us. We didn't originate that culture. We got that from colonization. Look up an author called Thomas Sowell. He documented that when the criminals that started this country came here, they brought their criminal activity with them. Then, when you were property of those criminals, you picked up their culture and adopted it as yours, and we still running with that today. So we have to deal with that. But the most important thing was they destroyed the template where our thoughts come from. The template where our thoughts come from. And they did that by distorting our concept of God. So you had two choices that you were locked into. White God or no God at all. And no God at all is disguised as science. Right? Yeah, I know. I told you it's going to be a rough one today. It's all right. That's how science hits you. Some truth just has a way of just hitting you in the face like bags. Right? Truth just hits you in the face hard, and then you just got to deal with it, put it all together. But that's how I advance the culture, because I come and I drop a lecture, and then for the next 2-3 years, people argue about it. I think it's crazy, pseudo. Then after they do the research, and they figure, oh, okay, damn, he was right, okay. Then I got to do it again. Then I get guys like Marv, whoever he is in here, yeah. He sucks everything up like a sponge, and then he drop it, and then I'm like, man, do I need to go up? Like, we might just go to Q&A. Like, is there anything left? Right? But we're going to deal with this. God or no God, right? Because you got science. A lot of people now, it became a problem for me. It became a problem for me. A lot of y'all watch my channel. They seen I had a 14-year-old guy on my page, and me and him had a convo. His dad used to promote me and take me all around the country. So I knew him since he was little like them. And he said, oh, well, yeah, I don't believe in God because I'm a scientist. I'm going to be a scientist when I get older. So, I don't believe in God. Like, wait, what? So is that a thing now? Wait, that's a thing now? So if I'm a scientist, then it's a given I don't believe in God because God's not scientific. I'm like, what are you guys studying? Right? So here's where we get advanced, right? So white God becomes your culture every day. So this is how you're supposed to live every day based on the church, right? And then the no God science thing, right? The atheist, that becomes education and business, right? So education and business is based on the no God principle, and then the white God principle is how you're supposed to live your life outside of school and work, right? Because you're not supposed to talk about quote unquote religion or spirituality in school or work. That's what you do outside. So you kind of lock down, like this is it for you, right? So you can see how the origin of spiritual and mental illness is creeping in already, right? So now when you add these two things together, they came with a remarkable insight. Like, wait a minute, we can put those together and really kill it. We can lock down the globe with this thing. See, that's why I've never been a believer of that year 2000, when they kept saying, oh, in the year 2000, the Illuminati gonna take over. They about to put the microchip on you. I've always been the black sheep, like, no, nigga. They don't need to put the microchip in you. They control your kitchen. See, that was the original study of microbiology. Microbiology, you know, you want to know what the name of microbiology was called when they first started it? Eugenics. But at the time, eugenics kind of had a bad name. So they figured, we'll just go ahead and come up with something else. But the whole idea of the study was to figure out what controlled humans at their core. Like, what makes cells do what cells do? If I can control the cell, I can control the person. So they need a microchip. No. Microchip will keep track of what you do after you did it. See, they want to control what you do before you do it. So we do that with food, right? So we get Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. That kills both birds with one stone. Now, not only do we codify no God as science, but then the scientist becomes God. Man, we smoking here. So now you get Big Bang Theory comes out of this philosophy. You get black holes come out of this, gravity, dark energy, dark matter, right? The scientist, white man is the God. We're going to re-edify that. Live as the scientists tell you. Right? Live as the scientists tell you. There's no purpose to life. Your only purpose in life is to work for the scientists. Now, when I say the scientists, you got to know, in corporate America, as around the rest of the globe, the scientist is the one that gets the money.
I'm not an actor. I don't do this to get props. I'm not here for nobody to join my group because I don't have one. And I give less than a damn about all these other groups. Because everything that's going to be done, been done already. My thing is how the universe was put here is the same question that I covered when you had your professor of history here, Reggie. So the redundancy to me is not one of my fortes.
Because you got somebody new here that will hear your perspective, that's all.
Brother, psychology is a game that's so old that it doesn't even work, first of all. Second of all, I'm going to keep this real simple. Whatever you create, whatever you make, whatever you come up with, comes by way of your mind. Can we get an understanding there?
Let me tell you.
They haven't even mapped out the brain yet.
Who hasn't mapped it out?
Modern science has mapped out.
Oh, so, well, I'm not dealing with modern science because modern science wasn't here when this shit got started.
Science brilliant. The brain has not been mapped out. That's a fact.
Then how do you know you have a brain?
Yo, Red Pill, let him switch so we can pick up art, because we can't even hear.
How do you know you have a brain if the brain hasn't been mapped out?
I was just simply making the point that the brain has not been mapped out. They're working towards that right now. Like the human genome is mapped out, but the brain has not been mapped out. You was making a conversation based off of the brain as if you understood the brain. You said the mind.
I said the mind.
So the mind, you talking about thoughts then. So you can't have a thought without a brain?
Thoughts are not the mind. Thoughts are not the mind. The brain is not the mind. The brain is a physical muscle locked inside the casing of the skull.